That's one good thing about cold weather in this car. Cold starts sound great. Today is a pretty cold day up here in the Northeast, but now it's really starting to get into the bitter cold temperatures, below freezing, all that stuff, having salty roads, terrible, terrible things. It's definitely not a car I would want to buy if I was going to be driving this every day at snowing temperatures. I myself very much dislike the cold. It wasn't so bad when I was younger, but now I just dislike it. There's too many activities I like to do outside. But on topic, it seems like this car hates the cold just as much as I do. It really brings out some, I guess, quirks you can call them. And the first one, when you just get to try and get into the car, and it's a frameless window, so the window comes down maybe about a ½ inch or so, drops it below the seal, and then you can open the door. But when you have a door or a window full of ice, it sometimes will keep the window from coming down, and it gets stuck. And there's never been a point, and I don't think it will come to a point where you can't get the door to come down. The window will always try and come down a little bit, and it will break free somewhat, but I guess it senses some sort of resistance, and it'll put the window like into a safe mode to protect the motor from kind of burning up from trying to pull a window down that's not going to come down. At that point, your window won't come back up when you close the door. So you can get in your car, all that, just fine, but the window won't go back up, and it comes down so much that it actually breaks the seal around the top of the window. So the problem comes in when you want to reset the door. And if you go to try and reset it right away, you're going to have ice all over your window. Unless you perfectly clean that door, it'll still be stuck. And then the problems continue when you go to drive away with the car. So now you got a window that's partially open and a transmission that won't go into second gear. Unless you have those gears completely lined up, there's times where it's less of a problem, but I would say at least 75% of the time it will have difficulty, and even another small percent of where it won't even go into second, and then once I get into second, I just leave it there. The best way I found to solve that is to, as soon as you start rolling, even if it's just like 1-2 miles an hour, just start letting the clutch out, clutch back in, pull back in a second, and it typically will line up without too much of a fight back. It's definitely not a transmission for the cold weather. And then moving on to the last problem, most ones that I've seen have the Michelin, the HP, the Primacy tire. It's a tire that's not rated below 40 degrees outside. Definitely lets you know that it's below its operating temperature, because they become rock hard and super noisy, and noisier than my exhaust noisy. And it's not like exhaust noisy is a nice noisy, because it's exhaust. That's the stuff you want to hear. You don't want to hear your tires rolling down the road at highway speeds. They'll have any little notch in them, you can hear just that much more. And it just translates that sound through the cabin, through everything. So I did swap out those tires when I did upgrade my wheel and tires to the Michelin Pilot Super Sport, which is actually a more aggressive summer tire, which they call it a max performance summer tire. But on dry roads in the cold, they don't get much traction like they would in the warm temperatures, which is obvious, but they're definitely not as loud. And that's a pleasant upgrade to know that I have the tire that I want in a summer tire, but they still they behave. And that about wraps it up. I think that's enough. I think this car, it's definitely something to consider if you're going to be one that only drives this, if you live in a climate that doesn't really get above, I would say about 50. Anything above that, it starts to behave a little bit better and cooperates with you when you go to drive it. Subscribe to my channel if you'd like. You can check out some of the other videos, and we'll see you next time.